Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome again to our Green Lunch series. My name is Jay with the Orange County Realtors Green Committee, along with my vice
Me,
chair.
Maureen McGrath. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the meeting. We have a lot to learn today, so tune in.
And we also have our special guest again, popular demand, from Mark Bueller, who's also a Green Committee member, but he is a certified appraiser, a green appraiser. And a couple weeks ago, he talked about appraising solar homes, what it means, and the pros and cons. And how about we start first with a recap of what we did from the last video, Mark, if that's okay?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me back.
Thank you. So the one thing that really came up a lot was about the types of solar financing or ownership. Can you just briefly give us an overview of what each one is and then pros and cons of each of them, if that's okay?
Yes. So I think I explained it before with like air quotes of ownership. The ways that you can have solar on your property, most typically on your roof here in Orange County, are you can buy them and own them outright, just pay cash. You can buy them, and many of the solar installers and solar companies have their own finance arm. So they will provide financing for the solar panels, and you will get what's called a solar loan. So you'll have a loan on your panels where, okay, so let's just go through all the different ways. So you owned outright or owned with a solar loan. Then there's leases where you can sign up for a lease and you pay a monthly payment on your lease, just like similar to a car lease. There's a power purchase agreement where the solar company will sell you solar at a reduced monthly cost compared to what your bill typically was. So we've got owned outright, owned with a loan, leased, power purchase agreement, and the different financing tools that are available cause marketability issues for realtors. So when we talk about the pros and cons, the one that's the easiest to navigate for a realtor and an appraiser also is when they're owned outright and there's no lien or encumbrance or loan at all on those. So when you're going to sell a home that has solar panels on it and it's owned outright, then it's just like any other part of the home. You don't have you don't have the marketability issues arising out of transferring a lease, which you would have to do in a lease situation or a power purchase agreement. You would have to transfer that, and also in a solar loan. In a solar loan, the homeowner who's selling their house has made an agreement with the solar loan company to pay them X amount of dollars per month for whatever the term of the loan is. So when a realtor takes a listing that has a solar loan attached to it or a lease, they not only have to sell the home, but they also have to sell that lease or loan also and transfer that into the new owner, into the buyers. So that's where a lot of problems arise in transactions for realtors that involve solar. So yeah, that's a big sticking point, and it's very important that when a realtor takes on a listing that has solar, that they learn as much as they can about that solar and find out how they got that, how they obtained it. Did they buy it? Did they lease it? Are they on a power purchase agreement? Do they have a loan? And let's further complicate the matter. On the loan, did the solar loan company file a UCC, which is it's a lien that's placed on personal property that's filed with the Secretary of State. And that's where you find that, and you often will find it in title. So if there's a lien or a UCC filed on that solar property, it's what we call TPO, third party owned. It's not owned by the homeowner. they can't rightfully sell it. So it becomes an issue for the realtor to transfer that third-party ownership from the buyer to the seller. And that's problematic in some cases. So most often what I find happening is the buyer will pay that lien off, whatever it might be. It could be the lease, payout. It could be the loan payoff on the remainder of the loan. And in the case of PACE, we haven't even gone to PACE yet. That's an assessment on your property tax that takes first position in front of any loan that's on the property. First trust deed, the PACE lien goes ahead of it. So those all need to be satisfied before you can facilitate the transfer. And most often a buyer isn't that interested in paying that because they're not the one who signed up for it. So it's usually on the seller to take care of that lien or encumbrance that's on those panels. That's the long version of the Reader's Digest version of how you can have solar on your house in all those different ways.
Thank you, Mark. By the way, if you have any questions, do have them on the bottom of your screen. It says Q&A, and there's also a chat button. But if you have the question specific for Mark, do use the Q&A. That way Mark can also see it. Okay. So now let's go to the green features, because that's what most of us are with a green designation. What are green features and how can we market them, and how do they add value as far as appraisals go? That's a bit of a mouthful, but
yeah, that for all of us is very difficult to quantify. But green features in a nutshell are going above code with your energy efficient features that are a part of the home. So if code was to call for an R rating, an insulation R value of say R30 in the walls, to exceed that would be considered above code and approaching a certain level of greenness. So green, the most common green features in a home are going to have to do with, we talked about the envelope of the home and sealing the envelope. So let me paint a picture of a home as a box that has 4 walls and a roof, and between the roof and the ceiling of the home, we can create a barrier on the walls and ceiling, creating a rectangular envelope, or we can take that envelope all the way up to the roof line and create a barrier on the floor, on the walls, and on the roof line. What that does is it keeps the air that is conditioned inside that envelope. So you can choose to include the attic or not. Most often you're going to see just the ceiling and the walls and the floor being considered the envelope. So with that envelope, what we do is we bring air in and we take air out, and we filter the air that comes in and we exhaust the air out, and we have what's called air exchanges within the house. And what's important about that is to create a flow of air that creates comfortable environment inside the house by improving the indoor air quality of the home. So in order to achieve these measures, we're using building features like windows and drywall and insulation and ducting and air sealing to create an envelope within the home where the home's not completely airtight, but it's like a breathing mechanism. So it will bring air in and expel the air out at a certain intervals of time and create an improved indoor air quality. So if we were to talk about what makes homes green and what homes are rated on, to determine the level of green or efficiency, we teach 5 main pillars of what categories these green items would fall into. Those include site, which is the land that it's on, water, the usage of water, the materials that are used in the construction of the home, energy efficiency, which is a byproduct of this type of building and placing it on the site and using the materials in a way that is conserving resources. And the final one is indoor air quality. So those 5 features or pillars of green are measured by someone who's going to rate a home and score it based on its level of greenness, so to speak. So indoor air quality is very hard to measure. But when you are inside a home that has very good indoor air quality, you can just feel it. And a lot of people aren't really aware of it until they've been in poor indoor air quality. When you have respiratory problems like asthma and these types of things, people will remove the carpeting and remove and just leave hard surfaces in the homes. So any hard surface could be considered a green feature, like a renewable source like a bamboo flooring or a cork material. So the types of green features that someone who knows what they are, they might be surprising to some of us, like just permeable brick pavers. Because when you're watering, the water goes through the bricks into the ground and irrigates the ground. So that could be considered a green feature. Landscape, when we talk about the site, what direction is the house facing? Is it getting maximum what we call passive solar exposure or access to the sun, using the sun for heating and also for light inside the house, and then shading, to shade the sun out in the afternoon, the west facing sun, to cool the home. So there's a lot of different things that go into it, but the main items that we think about when we think about how green is a house is the site, the water usage and efficiency of the water, the materials that are used in construction, and the amount of energy efficiency as a result of all this, and then, like I said, the indoor air quality.
May I go back to that pavers? So ours and a couple of our neighbors had pavers for the driveway mainly, but somehow because of all the rain that we had, I forgot which year it was, but it started sinking. And so it became an issue. So how can we avoid having that with the pavers? And then on top of the pavers, how about, it's a different topic. Let's stick with pavers first, and then I'll go to the other one.
The only thing I could think of is the compaction below. So when we address the site element of determining the green, the amount of green that a home has, we talk about the compaction of the site, and that which has to do with water runoff and these types of things. So if the soil below the pavers wasn't compacted properly, then I guess that they could settle and do that. But the idea that a brick is a green material was kind of novel to me, when you don't think of it that way, or just as the different types of landscape that you could have, and that are less water intensive, a succulent type of a garden and these types of things. So in that situation, I would say possibly the compaction below could help, of the surface below, that the water's going to permeate through those bricks into that. But maybe it was that too much water that caused all that problem.
Thank you. And then the other one for the landscaping that you mentioned, there's been an argument lately about having the green turf, the artificial grass, versus having the real grass. How does that affect, as an appraiser, for the green features?
Yes, I've heard the debates about that, and some green people would argue for, some would argue against. It's probably not the most eco-friendly material that it's made of. I don't know, it could be made from recycled plastic bottles or what have you. But I think where it gains points on the green scale is on the water, because water is the number one source of water consumption outside is irrigating the grass, typically. So if you're looking to reduce your usage of water and increase your water efficiency outdoors, it's the irrigation of the landscape, and indoors the number one culprit that uses up the water inside is the toilet. So we go to low flow toilets and stuff. Most appraisers, unless they've been trained in this type of little green niche, wouldn't know the difference between a green feature and one that wasn't. So for me, I look at turf as a green feature because of the reduced reliance on water usage. Because water, although here it isn't a big issue, in some places it's more valuable than oil. So in the Middle East, there's a moratorium on watering the grass to feed the cattle. So the U.S. sends grass, bales of hay and stuff over to the Middle East. So
That's interesting. No, actually, it wasn't too long ago, and we also had the drought here, and we had to have certain schedules as to when and how much we can water and everything. And that's actually when Eileen Oldroyd, one of our founders for the Green Committee, that's why she went with the Go Native Mondays, in which she features native California plants and have it as your landscape. Certain cities have that program as well, like I know Mission Viejo has or had, and then Huntington Beach as well. They have those different green programs for the homes. So real quick here, Barb was asking, does solar panels make a home green?
Solar in and of itself is not really a green feature. It is an energy efficient feature. And so when we put all the pillars of green together, energy efficiency is included in that. But when you look at the makeup of the actual physical components of a solar array, they aren't super earth friendly. They're made of silicon cells, and recycling them isn't cost effective. It's cheaper to just rebuild them. So what was going to happen to all these solar panels 20, 25 years down the road? What are we going to do with them? Will we repurpose them, or will we dump them into a landfill? And the battery backups also, if they're lithium ion batteries, but they can be inorganic or organic lithium ion cells. So the actual materials that go into solar are not green or renewable materials for the most part. But what the benefit is, just like water savings was in the last example, is the energy efficiency that you're going to gain off of that. So it's a sort of yes and no answer, but are solar panels considered green? No. But is energy efficiency that they provide considered green? Yes.
Thank you. And someone just made a note here, Stephanie, saying that artificial grass elevated the ambient temperature around the house. So it prevents water absorption in the soil. It's more important to renature the soil to be more absorbent. Yes, I agree. And right now we have an artificial turf as well, and it's better for the dog. However, you have that, like, it gets too hot, especially the sun is out more now, so it has that smell as well. So, but anyways, what other green features? Last week we talked about sealing the envelope with the inspector Mike Hosini, another affiliate we have. But can you talk more about, let's say, some condos or a lot of the condos have the vent for the oven or for the stove inside. So it's just recircling air instead of getting it out of the house or out of the condo. What can you suggest that homeowners do that really don't have the choice of having that ventilation?
Ventilation systems can be filtered with HEPA filters or different types of filtering mechanisms that you can put in to before the duct goes into the plenum. You can put in filtering systems in there, so when the air circulates through typically it's going to be your HVAC system.
Mm-hmm.
But you can also filter the vent that goes from the stove and filter that, so when it circulates around, it's the air is filtered. That's probably the best solution to that, because when I was talking about air exchanges within the house, that's filtering air out through the vents that come out the side of the house. So you're bringing air in naturally that's from the outside, and you're circulating it through the home, and you're conditioning it to either warm it up or heat it or cool it, depending on what time of year it is. And then that air circulates through your house, and then it's exhausted out and new air comes in, and you just repeat the cycle. So on those type of condo situations, all you can do is filter that air, because it's not naturally flowing. It's staying within that envelope.
Yes, and one of the things that he pointed out, that Mike has pointed out as well, was sealing, like for the lamps or for the lights, to make sure that there's enough of a seal between those, or even the gaps with our outlets, electrical outlets. Can you talk more about that?
Yes, that's when we're talking about air sealing and sealing the envelope. So you can put up the insulation and the barriers and all that, but to truly seal that envelope, you need to get up into every penetration. And if you look at your ceiling right now, you're probably going to see canned lights, you're going to see speakers, maybe you're going to see the vents, the registers for your forced air heat and cooling that comes out of there. You're going to see light switches and little receptacles everywhere. So someone who comes to rate your home for its energy efficiency can actually put a blower door on one of the entry doors and pressurize the house, and they can tell by testing where the penetrations are and where that air is coming in. And so as homes settle, the doorways change and air is able to infiltrate the house through doorways, windows, your light switches, those recessed lighting, the speakers, all those things that I talked about. And if you were to look at all those little pinholes throughout your house, you might cumulatively come up with the size of a window or a sliding door. Now, would you run your air conditioner with the window open or a sliding door open? No, but effectively that's what we're all doing, because we have these homes that are leaking. So what you need to do is go up into the attic and air seal. There's tape and there's caulking and stuff that these contractors will use to seal all of those penetrations. There's places I've seen when I've gone into attics where the roofers have gone up and just punched a bunch of holes with nails up in the roof, and they're nailing down the composition shingles just haphazardly. And you'll see all these nail penetrations coming through the roof into the attic that not only scratch up your head when you hit them, but they're letting air in. And when air comes into your home, the worst culprit that comes along with the air into those penetrations is moisture. And moisture is the worst thing that you can have inside your house. It's going to create all types of problems. So that's what air sealing and insulation, when you talk about what's the best way to green my house, well, yeah, windows and solar, that's all neat and dandy, but that stuff's really expensive. If you want to start out with the lower priced items, it's definitely the air sealing and insulation, and you're going to see a marked improvement. And I think we talked about this last week, how they're changing the building code,
Mhm.
and that new built single family residences in all of California, not just Orange County, are required to produce as much electricity as they're modeled to consume. So I've mentioned it before, the best way to get to zero net energy is not to put up triple pane windows and a bunch of solar. The best way to do it is to insulate the house and air seal the house properly. Then you need less of those more costly measures, less solar up on the roof. And maybe dual pane windows would work versus triple pane windows. You start with the less expensive stuff and then measure it and see now how much electricity are we using now that we've made these measures by sealing the envelope and insulating and ducting. So those are the things that really make a difference. And you know, you've got the lighting in your house. You can exchange your old light bulbs for the new LEDs, and they're much more efficient, and your utility bill will go down.
Thank you. Now, what about solar tubes? I've seen a lot of homes featuring solar tubes as part of a green feature when they're selling it, or the skylights. Can you give us more input on that?
Solar tubes, now they need to be installed properly, and not, you know, again, just like anything that I just mentioned, where you're going to have penetration from the roof all the way through into your house, just needs to be sealed up properly. And what that's going to do is provide natural lighting, or what I refer to it as passive solar. So you're not using it for heat gain, you're using it for lighting. And so in turn, you're using less electricity to light up rooms with light bulbs, and than you would if you're just using the natural sunlight. It's a prism system that reflects the light down through the tube into your home. And we did a training at San Diego Gas and Electric Innovation Center, and they've got some really cool solar lighting fixtures in there that are next level solar tubes. You know, we've seen the old ones that are just those circular things on the ceiling that sort of light up like a flashlight. These are, the technology's come a long way with those types of lighting systems.
So does that make a difference when you appraise a home that has that?
Well, individually, I would say probably not a huge difference. Where an appraiser should take note of the value really is in the reduction of energy usage. So that's a quantifiable figure. If you were to say, I bought this house and it was just stock, you know, builder grade, and after I bought it, I did all these measures to it. I insulated it, I air sealed it, I put in, you know, some solar tubes, passive lighting, and I've done all these measures. And now my utility bill is $75 per month less. That's a number that an appraiser can get their mind around and utilize that energy savings as we would consider it to be income, because appraisers utilize sales comparison approach, cost approach, and income approach. Not often will you see an income approach in a residential appraisal, unless it's a rental. Other than that, you're not. So you can basically take the energy savings and utilize the same methodology that you would place on the rental figure that you're bringing in to that energy cost savings.
So far it seems like it is about more about energy savings as far as appraisals go with the green features. Now, how can we, us realtors, encourage our sellers to have green features and let them know that, hey, having green features actually will add value to your home?
Well, appraisers have to have quantifiable evidence to base their conclusions on. That's why that's the most effective way for an appraiser to get their mind around anything. When it comes to realtors, it's a different way of looking at things. As we all know, although those of us that have dealt with appraisers, and I am one, but I understand both sides of this equation. Sometimes it's difficult to make an appraiser understand value from a realtor's perspective. So a realtor is selling a home to a buyer, and the buyer has their wants and needs. So as someone who understands green indoor air quality and energy efficiency, I value that. Someone who doesn't may not value it as much. So someone who has a kid with asthma or has some type of a respiratory illness would value indoor air quality more than someone who doesn't. And someone who's well-versed in this energy efficiency and green features, or, you know, they're a I want to save the earth type person, they're going to want these type of materials. So it's really an individual preference, but I think that a realtor, it can go a long way if they understand this topic and they can display the value of these features to a prospective buyer. And ultimately, it comes down to dollars and cents for a lot of people. It's a small minority, I think, that are in this for the altruistic reasons of, you know, I want the earth to be around here for my great-great-grandchildren. I want there to still be water available at those times. I think that most people go into it with a dollars and cents mindset, thinking I can save this much money if I buy this house and it has solar on the roof, or I buy this house and it's water efficient, or it's efficient in whatever ways. And as a byproduct of that, after the fact, they get this warm, fuzzy, conservationist type of feeling, like they've done something for Mother Earth, you know. And but to your point, as a realtor, to demonstrate the value of these features to a prospective buyer, you're going to have to first become educated yourself on what actually is going on with the features of the home and how they do relate to the green aspect. And secondly, be able to communicate that to a prospective buyer. And of course, the first thing they're going to want to hear is, this home had a $300 a month electric bill, and now it has a $3 a month electric bill. Does that get your attention? Yes. Well, also, if we want to talk about off-gassing and indoor air quality, this home has been painted with no VOC paint. People would be like, what the heck is that? Well, that's volatile organic compounds. When you get into that new car and smell that new car smell that everyone loves, it's not such a great thing. That smell is volatile organic compounds that are harmful. You know, this home has all LED lighting. This home has, you know, all these type of features that you can point out to them and go, this is a good thing. And this is a reason why you may want to open up your wallet and spend a little bit more money on this, because over time, not only is it going to save you money, it's going to be a healthier place to live. And you can always get them with the health component. You know, people may not spend a lot of money on green this or that, or, you know, I'm going to buy organic type food. But when you talk about going to pay money for a 24-hour fitness or health type of a thing, you can get them there. How much money are you going to save on not going to the emergency room or going to the doctor with respiratory illness by living in this house versus that one? So these are the kind of things that we can impress upon buyers that, you know, you might just think this term green is some nebulous. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so prior to my real estate career, which has only been 5 years, I'm a newbie. I was in the custom building, working with architects and engineers in Laguna Beach. And I'm still working with them as possible, potentially, you know, sellers. I'm very close to them, but none of them are aware of what the new laws and regulations are with the whole green. And their homes are extremely small, but yet compact. and they feel they're doing a really good job with by being, you know, green. Where do you stand with that? Because the laws are completely different with Laguna Beach, as you very well know. I mean, we had issues with sunroofs, 1 inch,
Hello,
not sunroofs,
Mo?
yes, skylights. Oh, are you there, Jay?
Yes,
Oh, there we go.
I can hear you.
So the skylights were like 1 inch above the norm, and they don't seem to feel the need to, you know, do their due diligence. Where do we stand with that if we have a listing in places like Laguna Beach where it doesn't matter?
Well, I'm not clear on how it doesn't matter because the building code is statewide, and Title 24 of the building code is the energy efficiency component of that. So Laguna Beach doesn't get a pass on building code. The fact that builders at this point aren't as aware is just I think it's just a sign of the times. The state building code changed to zero net energy, so they should be aware if they're building new construction. If they're just doing retrofits or remodels, building code Title 24 also increased, so they're going to have to be compliant with that on any new addition or any work that they were to do on a home. So if they're not aware of it, they're going to be made aware of it, painfully so, by the permit process and the building inspectors in the city of Laguna Beach.
But doesn't Title 24 have a fine line?
I don't think so. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry what's required.
Okay, because
And it's gone up, it's increased. So if they were to break ground in 2019, like we're seeing new construction that isn't being built with 100% zero net energy capability, it's because they squeaked in and got the permitting process done before January 1st, 2020, and they didn't even break ground, but they got
exactly.
everything.
Exactly, and there's their fine lines, right? I mean, but there's always fine lines, no matter what we're doing. There's always
Of course,
fine lines.
anyone who's remodeled a home in Laguna Beach is well aware of Title 24.
Oh yeah,
But it only pertains to the new part. So the old house can be 100 years old and be as leaky and inefficient as it doesn't matter. The new part has to be built to the new code.
right. But as long as isn't it still as long as they have a major bearing wall?
Well, yeah, when we get into, someone asked that last time around,
Yeah.
would it be subject to the new building code if they were to leave one wall standing,
One bearing wall.
build around it? Then effectively by the county assessor, the building is still considered to be built in 1928.
Remodeled.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
ground up remodel with the one
Yeah.
wall from the garage remaining. But in that scenario, whatever they put around that wall is subject to the new building code and the new Title 24. So it would be built to code, which I mentioned it on the last lunch talk that we had a couple weeks ago, that a home that's built to the new code would be considered a higher quality of construction than something that was built to the old code. And quality of construction is an appraisal term also. That is a line item on the appraisal, quality of construction and condition.
Which will come back to you later days when you go to sell the property. It's going to make a big difference.
If you can demonstrate that and report it, with authority. Jay had asked earlier, how does a realtor sell a green home for more money? Well, you have to be able to present a convincing argument and present that with authority and demonstrate that additional value. There's been studies done out there that have taken green certified labeled homes and studied them versus those that weren't. So we're talking about a higher quality of construction home that actually has a green label. And the studies have revealed anywhere from 2 to 9% premium on those homes based on the sales prices versus homes that are, say, code built. So you could fall back on one of those studies. It was put out by UC Berkeley or the Berkeley Labs and UCLA. They all did a big study together years ago. And initially it displayed a 9% premium that was paid. And that was later reduced and, revisited and brought down to about a 4% increase in value based on quite a large sample of homes. And that would beg the question, okay, I can get 4% more for a green built home. How much does it cost to build to that standard?
To build it.
Most people would think that costs 10, 15% more. Not true. That costs probably about 4%. So you're going to...
Unless you're in Northern California, in Berkeley.
Yeah, well, that's part of the code for that city is no gas appliances are no longer allowed, no gas mechanicals.
They're already obsolete, yeah.
Right. But the misconception out there is that it costs a lot more than it really does to build green. And these production builders that are building tract homes with solar, they're buying materials in bulk. So it might be a wash, but I would think that an informed salesperson could sell a home like that faster and for more money than a code built home.
Here.
Anywhere.
Okay. Interesting.
If you can demonstrate that value by your knowledge of this material, of this green and the benefits of green, I think you would be able to sell it faster, and I think you should be able to sell it for more.
As long as your buyer's aware of the green.
You have to make them aware.
Yes,
your
to
job.
make them aware. But yes, I agree. No, I agree. That's awesome. Thank you. Okay, Jay, back to you, wherever she's at. Oh, she disappeared. It's you and me.
We lost her. Okay, then.
It's you and me, Mark.
So
no, I appreciate all your information.
Oh, for sure. It's what's important for realtors to understand around this green topic, because people have their preconceived notions of what it is and what it isn't. Really, it boils down to building to a higher standard or renovating the home to a higher standard. And if you're selling a product that's of a higher standard, it should be easier to sell. If you're going to sell everything for the same price, that one should sell faster because it's better, or sell it at a higher price. That's the idea.
And it's still the same old saying, knowledge is power.
Absolutely. So we've got to educate ourselves before we can educate the buyers and sellers. So the whole solar topic, people would argue back and forth about the return on investment, and I agree. But what's happening on the solar world is the price of solar is going down, price of electricity is going up, thereby reducing the return on investment, period. So people are quoting 7-year return if you were to buy enough solar.
7 to 10 year return.
7 to 10 years. But as the price goes down and the price of electricity goes up, that 7 to 10 years starts to reduce in time. So anybody who wants to put solar on their roof, I would say, how long are you going to be in your house for?
Exactly. And I'm getting hounded by people 24/7 for solar. And I'm obviously 60, 65, my husband, and I'm just thinking it's not beneficial for me to sell, because we definitely don't want to do the whole lease thing on solar. For obvious reasons. I mean, we've talked about that for the last few meetings. I mean, it's just not an option. So why would I do that?
Well, you wouldn't. Let's go back to what we talked about earlier. Forget about solar. Do the inexpensive fixes. Put the insulation and the air sealing and make your home efficient. Anybody who's considering solar should first do that. And then have somebody come out and measure your usage, and then determine how much solar you're going to need to satisfy that use demand. therefore you're going to end up putting up less panels on your roof,
Yeah.
reducing the cost of the solar, and you're still going to be at a zero
Yeah.
electricity bill. And the reason why you got to zero wasn't entirely the solar. It was a lot to do with the building and the measures that you took to make your home more efficient.
Exactly.
Sealing those panels.
I've heard you so many times saying, seal the envelope, seal the envelope. So that's what I'm doing. Trust me. My husband's tired of me telling him, seal the envelope, seal the envelope. So, but you're right. You need to seal it from, always work, I used to clean homes. You always work from the top down, just always.
Right. Well, first reduce and then measure what you're going to need.
Yeah.
And then install, if you want to go with solar. But I wouldn't recommend it to anybody who isn't in it for the long haul, because you're not going to return investment. And also those ownership methods that we discussed in the beginning, they're going to cause marketability issues. But as a realtor, you need to understand, if you do run into a home that has solar on the roof, what exactly are we dealing with here? Let's take a look at the paperwork, and let's look at that lease, because not every lease is written the same way. They're all different. And some of them are very predatory and not fair. And so, like I said earlier, typically what I see is, unfortunately, the seller has to take care of that and satisfy any lien, loan, lease agreement, take care of all of that before they can complete the transaction.
Right. I agree. I so appreciate all your information, Mark. I really do. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
I don't know where Jay's went. Is Jay around?
No, I got a message from her on my phone that her connection is shot and that you're taking over.
So, I'm taking over because I'm the vice chair. All righty, Mark. Well, that works for me too. Elsie, are you there? Elsie? Oh my goodness. It's you and me, Mark. We're good.
It's the Mark and Mo show from here on out.
Oh, no. Oh, Elsie showed up. Hey, Elsie.
I can't see the chat if there's any questions in there.
Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. So Mark and I are going to call it a day because he's helped me so much. So are we good?
Okay, yeah, sounds good.
If there's any questions in there in the chat, we can take those.
Okay. So Mark, I appreciate all of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.